Chapter 22. Josiah. Seeing the headline and seeing Ray's face fall broke him. He knew he hadn't told anyone. Hell, who would he tell? But it didn't matter. Ray thought he had, and to be fair, he was the most logical person to blame. The problem was it stung. Seeing Ray's anger, catching the brunt of the calloused man Josiah had known him to be, was rubbing salt in a fresh wound. They had a beautiful day. He couldn't have asked for anything better. He adored the way Ray looked at him, the way Ray touched him, their kisses and intimacy. He was at home in Ray's arms, nestled next to him, feeling his chest rise and fall. Waking up to a disaster ruined more than Ray's trust in him. It ruined the whole previous day. It called the end of their honeymoon stage in the worst way possible. After Ray stormed into the other room, Josiah set to work. He had connections with most of the gossip channels, and between him and his marketing assistant, they tracked down a man who had information. Josiah didn't recognize the name right away, and even after back-and-forth negotiations, the man refused to surrender the information digitally, and Josiah was in no mood to wait for the postal service to deliver pressing information. They decided on a meeting time and place, and the meeting had been scheduled for the afternoon. Getting past Ray wasn't exceptionally difficult, either. He knew Ray wouldn't stop him despite being fussy, so he strolled out of the suite for the first time in several weeks, and his anxiety spiked. Being outside of the suite felt surreal, and light steps carried him through the hallway and down the elevator to the first floor. Everyone he saw had masks covering the bottom half of their faces, and the employees had blue gloves stretched over their hands. Everyone looked tired, exhausted, weathered. Josiah rubbed his hands down his jeans, shrinking himself, as he weeded through the lobby and moving outside. The warm air burned his face, and the bright sunlight stung his eyes. As he stepped onto the sidewalk, a breeze tickled the exposed bits of his face. The world was barren, quieter than he'd ever seen, and Vegas was a place overflowing with people all the time. A lot had changed now, though. People were distanced from each other, wearing a mix of colorful, stylish masks and utilitarian hospital masks. Women clutched the hands of little children who tugged at the mask straps. Even the roads were empty, and gas prices had tanked. They had gone from nearly $4 a gallon to under $2, and despite the drop in price, the pumps were barren. Josiah passed 2 gas stations on his walk, and he weeded around people as he approached the grocery store. There was a limit there, too, and people mingled outside in a spaced line as a worker manned the door, ushering one person in as another person left. Josiah stood in line, arms crossed, spaced 6 feet from the person in front of him and the person behind him until it was his turn. Then he slipped inside. He grabbed a handheld basket and strolled the aisles, picking up a box of macaroni and cheese, weaving through the fresh fruits and vegetables, and collecting several lumpy apples before continuing through the store. They hadn't fully planned the meetup, but he knew the man would be in the grocery store at some point. He had already written a check for the information, and it was burning a hole in his wallet, making sweaty palms itch. He added flour and sugar to his cart and turned the corner to the next aisle, chewing the inside of his cheek as the skin under his mask became hot, and the raw edges of the fabric scratched his cheeks. It was a small price, considering how drastically the cases went down, how the deaths were curbed, and how the country came together as a community. Josiah stepped onto the next aisle, but it was already occupied by shoppers. 2 women leaned against their carts. They were a healthy 4 feet away from each other, but even with the lower part of their face hidden, Josiah could read the stress lines and the exhaustion. He inched onto the aisle, studying a myriad of canned soups, beans, and vegetables. "Huh. Soup comes in a can," he whispered, tilting his head. As he moved down the aisle inspecting the soups, the women's conversation touched his ears. "Well, both of my sons have been home for months now, and they're not doing well. They miss their friends and they miss their sports events," one woman said, shaking her head. "I understand. It's so hard for them. My daughter's tutor is really struggling. She may get evicted from her home because most of her clients had to reschedule." Penciled-in eyebrows lifted. "Can you believe it? Oh, have you taken a look at the unemployment rates? They haven't been this high in nearly 2 decades. As Josiah approached closer, their voices hushed, and he gave them a shy smile hidden behind his mask. He scanned their faces but then shuffled around them, grabbing a can of loaded potato soup and a can of chicken enchilada soup. When he turned the corner again, he ran into a string bean of a man with shaggy hair and a billowing shirt. "Josiah?" His voice was muffled behind a utilitarian black mask. "Yeah. Are you?" "Zeke, yeah." Josiah stepped away from him, eyes darting around. "Walk with me," he murmured, then turned away and dipped into an aisle. The man followed. "Do you have it? The money?" "Of course, but I'm not the one who should be questioned right now. Do you have real information for me?" "Yeah, I've got the information for you, and let me point out I'm not the one trying to clear my name with my boyfriend. Maybe if he trusted you more, you wouldn't have to sneak around and meet him." Josiah rolled his eyes. "Who says I'm sneaking?" The man looked at Josiah's basket. "Apples, flour, sugar, mac and cheese, and some soup. What were you even here for? You couldn't get delivered to you." "Obviously here for you and my information." "Let's see it then." Josiah cut his eyes to the other man, searching his person, and then looking into his eyes. The man pulled a folded envelope from his back pocket and presented it to Josiah. "Here it is. You should sanitize it though. I bought a plastic one, so it'd be easier to clean. Do you have sanitizer?" "On me." Josiah blinked. "No." The man sighed. He dug a travel-sized bottle of hand sanitizer out of his pocket and spritzed it on his hands, and then planted a blob on top of the folder before passing it to Josiah. "After you rub it in, give me your hands." "This is overkill," Josiah grumbled. "Maybe so, but I don't need an extra scandal. I don't want to be the one to give a popular social media influencer an incurable virus." "Fine." Josiah cleaned the folder and then used more sanitizer on his hands. "Thanks." After he rubbed it in, he reached into his pocket, opening his wallet and pulling out the check. They did the whole shuffling process again, minus adding sanitizer directly to the check, but once the process was over, the man packed his sanitizer away. "Don't check it here. You should pay for your stuff and get home." "Sure." Josiah chewed the inside of his cheek again. "What are you going to use the money for?" "Not really your business, is it?" "No, but I'm curious." The man sighed, looking over Josiah's head before back down at him. "Bills, rent, the usual. I'm 2 months behind on rent now because of this whole pandemic thing. Bills have been tight. I'm going to pay off the rest of some student loans and then go from there." Josiah nodded. "Is it really rough?" "Yeah. It's pretty rough. Anyway, I hope the information helps you. And stay safe, all right?" "Yeah. Thanks." Josiah thumbed the edges of the folder as the man turned away from him. There was no crowd for him to disappear into, but Josiah watched him until he turned the corner, thinking about the information he'd received. When the man was gone, Josiah made his way to the front of the grocery store, paying for his items. The cashier double-bagged them, and he tucked the folder between the 2 bags before he carried them back to his penthouse suite. He unlocked the door, stepping inside and depositing his keys, wallet, and cell phone on the table just inside the door. Then he took his items into the kitchen, resting them on the counter. Ray jerked his head up as Josiah breezed into the kitchen. "Whoa, okay. Hey. I read some articles about being as safe as possible, and you need to take off all your clothes, put them in the washing machine, and take a shower." Josiah glanced over his shoulder at Ray. "You're not mad at me anymore?" "I'm still mad, but safety is more important. I'll shower when I unload my groceries and put them away." Josiah reached for the bag again. "I'll unload your groceries, just get out of here and get washed up." "No. I got it. Seriously. I got it." Ray folded his arms across his chest. "You're really going to be this way about some groceries? I didn't realize your first shopping trip would be so important to you." Josiah rolled his eyes. "You have already done enough for me, and you are dealing with your own emotions. I don't need you to also unpack my groceries for me. You should go back to work. You are ridiculous. Ray scowled. No, I'm not. Okay. Just let me do it. Okay? Josiah wrung his hands, snapping his attention back to Ray. Will you just leave it here until I get back? If it's really that important to you, yeah. I'll leave it right there for you until you get back. Josiah sighed. Thank you. Ray strummed his fingers on the table, gentle thuds cutting through the brief silence. How was it out there? What do you mean? I mean, how was it? Like, was it crowded or empty or what? Josiah shrugged. It was different. Everyone's wearing masks and the streets are empty. There are even fewer cars on the road, but also, I feel, I don't know, irresponsible. Why? Because? I know I've heard this stuff from my followers a little, but people are seriously going bankrupt and losing their homes. Yeah. Yeah, they are. I overheard a woman talking, and she said that her son's tutor was about to lose her apartment because she had no way of making money, and I know this sounds crazy, but with the number of millionaires and billionaires we know, couldn't we set up a fund? I mean, I know the government is doing something, but I guess it's just not enough. A fund like what? Josiah shrugged. Maybe something modest, like we find a way to give everyone $500. Everyone? Ray lifted his eyebrows. Yeah. Like everyone. There are nearly 400 million people in the States. Technically 328 million, and it would cost $164 billion to give everyone $500. Maybe it escaped your notice, but $164 billion is quite a large amount of money. Ray shrugged. Exactly, and no one person needs it either. I mean, a couple million is one thing, but what do you even do with billions of dollars? If we gathered up half of our graduating class and had them donate a portion of their wealth to the cause, we could easily come up with it. I know it's not like a lot. It's just $500, but it's something, you know. Ray studied Josiah. This is really important to you. Yes. My fellow countrymen are very important to me. All right. I'll look into it and see what I can do, but you must go shower. Now. Okay. A little smile touched Josiah's face as he tiptoed across the room. Drop your clothes directly in the washing machine, so you don't spread a mess everywhere. Okay, Josiah groaned. Good Lord. And your shoes. Okay. Now he couldn't help a little laughter as he stripped down in the laundry room, dumping all of his clothes, even his underwear, into the washing machine and strolling back through the suite completely naked, catching Ray's eyes on him as he disappeared into the bedroom.